The rain had just begun to fall when the little girl stumbled out of the alley, breathless, trembling, her small hands clutching the straps of a worn-out backpack as if her entire world lived inside it. The street was nearly empty except for a distant rumble, low, rhythmic, growing louder. At first it sounded like a storm rolling in, but then headlights cut through the mist. A convoy of motorcycles, powerful and intimidating, emerged out of the gray haze. And right there, in the middle of the road, the little girl raised both hands, desperate, terrified, and yet somehow brave enough to stand in front of a wall of roaring engines. She looked no more than 9. Her voice cracked with fear, but her words were clear enough to stop the bikers cold. "My stepfather wants to take me away. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps these stories reach more hearts." The bikers slowed, their headlights illuminating her tear-stained face as raindrops glittered on her cheeks. She stood still, shivering yet unbroken, like a tiny candle fighting against the wind. Behind her, shadows shifted in the alley, and she kept glancing back as though expecting a monster to crawl out after her. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The leader of the group, a massive man with a beard streaked in silver, cut off his engine and stepped forward. But the little girl flinched before he could even say a word, a reflex shaped by fear, something that should never belong to a child. Her name was Lila. In a trembling rush of emotion, she told them how her stepfather had come back to take her away from the aunt who had given her the first sense of safety she had ever known. Her stepfather had a history of disappearing into his addictions, only to return with rage that burned hotter every time. Lila had been taught to be small, to make no noise, to take up no space, because her presence seemed to ignite storms in him. She had lived in a house where slamming doors were louder than laughter, where broken bottles were more common than bedtime stories, where bruises were explained away as accidents no one dared question. But when her mother died unexpectedly, Lila was sent to live with her aunt, gentle, soft-spoken, always smelling like cinnamon and sunlight. For the first time, Lila felt what home was supposed to feel like. That is, until the stepfather emerged again, claiming he had rights and threatening to take her away whether she wanted to go or not. Lila's aunt tried to fight it, but the papers, the confusion, the fear, everything made it feel like a losing battle. And when Lila overheard him shouting that he would drag the girl out himself, she panicked and ran. The bikers listened, the rumble of their engines slowly silencing as each rider shut theirs off. The rain thickened, turning the road glossy and cold, yet the warmth around Lila began to rise, not from the weather, but from the unexpected wall of protection forming around her. These bikers, with their leather jackets, tattoos, rough edges, and intimidating presence, were far from the monsters people often assumed them to be. Many of them knew what it meant to be hurt, abandoned, overlooked. Many had lived lives that demanded redemption. And nothing stirred them more than a child in danger. The leader knelt so his eyes met hers, not towering over her, not demanding answers, just letting her breathe. He reassured her in a calm, quiet tone that they weren't going to let anyone take her somewhere unsafe. Behind him, the other bikers exchanged glances, silent agreements, fierce commitments that didn't require words. Lila felt, for the first time since she ran, her lungs fully expand. They brought her to their clubhouse, not a dangerous hideout like the movie suggested, but a renovated old warehouse turned into a community hub where they hosted charity drives, free meals, and rides for kids battling illness. Inside, warm lights glowed against wooden walls covered in photos of smiling faces. Someone handed Lila a dry blanket. Someone else brought her a hot cup of cocoa that smelled like hope. And slowly, as she curled up in the oversized blanket, her fear began dissolving into something softer. But the story didn't end there. As the bikers contacted her aunt and explained everything, the stepfather showed up, furious, shouting, demanding to see Lila. What he didn't expect was a 30-strong wall of leather and steel forming in front of the entrance, standing shoulder to shoulder like guardians forged in thunder. The leader calmly explained that no one would hand over a child to a man reeking of alcohol and rage. Not without the proper authorities involved. Not without Lila being safe. The stepfather tried to push forward, but the bikers never budged. Their presence alone made him falter. And when the police arrived, called by the bikers themselves, the truth finally came into the open. Lila's aunt arrived moments later, breathless and terrified until she saw Lila safe, wrapped in a blanket, surrounded by protectors who treated her like she mattered. The relief on her aunt's face was powerful enough to break even the toughest hearts in the room. Eventually, the authorities took statements. The truth about the stepfather's history spilled out like ink from a cracked bottle. Custody was immediately halted. Lila was placed back into her aunt's care, this time with legal protection and advocacy the bikers helped secure through community lawyers they knew. The next week, the bikers organized a special ride just for her. They gave her a tiny leather vest patched with a pair of angel wings. "Little Guardian," it read. Riding on the back of the leader's bike, Lila held onto him with fearless joy, wind rushing against her face, the world suddenly full of possibilities instead of threats. She was safe. She was home. She was no longer alone. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps more people see stories that remind the world that kindness still exists. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were one of those bikers?